All right, joining me now, Ben Domenech, editor-at-large for The Spectator, and Katie Pavlich, both are Fox News contributors. Katie, watching the close there.
Watching the close, the message is America doesn't have to be a country in decay. This is a choice. The choice is tomorrow. He's talking directly to the American people about the fact they don't have to live with the status quo, with this despair, that there is a change that can be made tomorrow. And he's doing it in the place that he has to win and take off the board for Kamala Harris.
And it's striking when you watch the rallies, the people who are at the rallies. Obviously, they all care in some way about the country, but he's always surrounded by kind of the hard hat types. That, there are a lot of women actually there tonight and yesterday. But Kamala Harris is surrounded mostly by college-educated, college-age young women, which that's what they're going to rely on.
It's their bread and butter. And look, this is a change election because we've seen very consistently that people in every poll are dissatisfied with the direction of the country. They want to make a big change. She has tried to take on the mantle of change by distancing herself from everything that's happened over the past 4 years. I think that she has not been successful at doing that. And so really this comes down to making a closing case, as Donald Trump has here, that he represents a true difference in direction. And I think he's doing a much more effective job of doing it. It really comes down to the kind of machine that the Democrats have built and whether they can overcome that messaging advantage.
Yeah. Katie, you get a feeling about the electorate in the moment. What's your feeling tonight?
Donald Trump is in the best position he's been in ever. Yeah. With 26, 2020. He's going in tomorrow based on the polling ahead in all the swing states and the people who had it right in the last two elections. People are showing up to his rallies. You hear this, I think, a ludicrous idea that there's a quiet Kamala voter. I think there is still a quiet Trump voter. And the big question is, how are Democrats going to get people to the polls who can help her make up these voters that she has lost, especially in places like Pennsylvania? Are they really going to be able to make up the difference in Philadelphia with African-American voters? Are they going to be able to make up the difference with men? I mean, she has these gaps to fill.
She thinks she can.
And where are they going to get them from?
Yeah, they think they can make it up because that gender gap they think is going to be that big. But I haven't seen as many souls to the polls this election cycle. Have you?
No.
Like in Philly or Atlanta? I guess there's some, but it's not like it was in 2020 or 2016.
And I think that's an indication that this whole media narrative about her having some kind of wave of joy behind her is a complete fiction.
Joy.
And by the way, to Katie's point, the idea of a quiet Kamala voter, I haven't met that person. I met a lot of people who are not quiet about it, but I think that the truth is Democrats are trying to grasp onto straws here because they see the fundamentals, and the fundamentals suggest in an election about the economy, the border, and international security, that's something where Donald Trump has the advantage.
Tell us about the TikToker you were talking about when we were watching Trump, the TikToker who is mad today because Kamala won't address the Gaza war.
So apparently she was sitting down with this TikToker.
Big audience,
He had some serious, Arab American, had some serious questions about how she's going to handle the Middle East, and she wanted to talk about spices, kitchen spices. I mean, Ben, you know more about the story than I do. I'm not on TikTok. I didn't see the interview.
Some kind of
pizza? The idea is that
very
she was suggesting bacon, and then she said maybe I can make a whole segment about how I like anchovies or something like that, and they just killed the whole thing.
But doesn't that sum it up? That she would really, I think she would thrive as kind of a lifestyle coach.
Yeah,
she's very happy, and she's really fun when she's dancing. She's really fun when she's doing her Spotify list.
The mood is very midday lifestyle. Yes, exactly.
Right? Good day, San Francisco.
Laura, it just further emphasizes what's been lacking with her campaign, and that's authenticity. She's always trying to fake her way through these conversations, through the campaign, changing her argument from last week to this week. At the DNC convention, they brought out all of these American flags, and they put the camo hats on, even though they've been vilifying those things for years. And most importantly, she was part of an administration telling people that the inflation crisis doesn't exist, and now all of a sudden she wants people to think she not only feels their pain, but she's going to make it better, which is why Trump's closing argument about fixing it is going to resonate.
Her motto should have been, I broke it, and I'll try my very best to fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I broke it, maybe I'll try and buy it.
Yeah, maybe I'll try and rebrand it. Ben and Katie, thank you both.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.